My fiancé said, I changed my mind. I want a prenup to protect my assets. I said, smart idea. Then I had my lawyer draft one. Years later, she cheated, filed first, but she totally forgot about the prenup. Hey everyone, never thought I'd be posting here, but life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. This is a long story, so grab some coffee or whatever you need because this gets wild. I, 34, male, and until recently was married to Emily, 32, female. We'd been together for 8 years total. Married for the last 5. Met in college. Both of us were business majors. And honestly, I thought we were perfect for each other. Both ambitious, both career-focused, both came from middle-class families where we learned the value of hard work. When we first started dating, Emily was this incredible woman, smart as hell, funny, driven, and had these big dreams about starting her own marketing consultancy. I was working toward my CPA and planning to eventually start my own accounting firm. We used to stay up late talking about our future business ventures, supporting each other through finals, the whole 9 yards. It felt like we were building something together. After college, I landed a decent job at a mid-tier accounting firm. Nothing fancy, but it paid the bills and gave me good experience. Emily got hired at this prestigious marketing agency downtown. The salary difference was noticeable from day one, but I didn't care. I was proud of her success and figured I'd catch up eventually with my own practice. About 3 years into dating, we moved in together. That's when I started noticing some changes in Emily's attitude about money. She'd make comments like, well, I'm paying more rent, so I should get the master bedroom closet. Or, since I cover groceries most of the time, maybe we should shop where I prefer. Nothing huge, just little things that made me realize she was keeping score in a way that felt new. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't some deadbeat boyfriend. I contributed what I could, took care of utilities, handled maintenance stuff around the apartment, cooked dinner most nights. But Emily's career was taking off fast, and mine was more of a steady climb. By year 5 of our relationship, she was making nearly double what I was, and she seemed to become more aware of that fact every month. That's when she started talking about protecting her investments. She'd bought some stocks with her bonuses, was putting money into a high-yield savings account, even mentioned looking into rental properties. Meanwhile, I was still building my client base slowly and putting most of my extra money toward paying off student loans faster. The proposal happened on a weekend trip to Napa. I'd been planning it for months, saved up for a nice ring, the whole traditional thing. Emily said yes, cried happy tears, and we spent the rest of the weekend talking about wedding plans and our future. Everything felt perfect. That lasted about 2 weeks. We were sitting in our living room on a Tuesday night. Wedding magazines spread across the coffee table when Emily suddenly got this serious look on her face. I've been thinking, she said, setting down the magazine she was flipping through. Maybe we should consider a prenup. I looked up from my laptop where I was researching venues. A prenup? Why? She shifted on the couch, not quite meeting my eyes. Well, I've been talking to some of the senior associates at work, and they all say it's just smart business, especially when there's a significant income difference. Okay, I said slowly. I mean, if that's what you want to do, we can look into it. Really? She seemed surprised I wasn't more resistant. You're not upset. Should I be? If it makes you feel more secure, then sure, we'll figure it out. But then came the conversation that should have been my first red flag. 3 days later, Emily brought up the prenup again, but this time with more specifics. I've been researching this more, she said over dinner. And I think we should structure it to protect my assets. You know, the money I've saved, my investment accounts, anything I've built up before we get married. I set down my fork. Your assets? What about mine? She gave me this look like I'd asked why water was wet. What assets? You've got student loans and maybe $3,000 in checking. The way she said it stung more than I expected. Not because it was wrong. I wasn't exactly rolling in cash, but because of how dismissive it sounded. Okay, but what about my potential future earnings? My plans for the accounting practice? That's different, Emily said, waving her hand. That's potential. I'm talking about real tangible assets that exist right now. Things I've worked hard for and saved. I nodded, trying to process this. So, let me get this straight. You want a prenup that protects what you have now, but anything we build together after marriage is fair game. Exactly. She smiled like I'd finally gotten it. See, I knew you'd understand. You're always so logical about these things. Something about this whole conversation felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on what. Emily was right that she'd built more wealth than me so far. And if it made her feel secure, maybe it was worth exploring. All right, I said. Let's do it. But if we're going this route, let's do it right. I want my own lawyer to look everything over.
Emily's face brightened.
Of course, that's exactly what we should do. I'm so glad you're being mature about this. That Saturday, I called my buddy Lucas, who'd gone to law school. We'd kept in touch since college and he'd mentioned doing some family law work at his firm.
Dude, a prenup?
Lucas laughed when I explained the situation. Emily's really pushing for this. She thinks it's smart protecting her assets and all that.
Well, she's not wrong. But here's the thing.
If you're going to do a prenup, you need to make sure it actually protects both of you fairly. You can't just sign something that only benefits one person. Lucas recommended a family lawyer at his firm, Amanda Thompson, who specialized in prenuptials. I set up a meeting for the following week. Amanda was this sharp, no-nonsense woman in her 40s who immediately put me at ease. She listened to everything Emily and I wanted, asked a bunch of questions about our finances, career plans, and future goals. So Emily wants to protect her current assets, Amanda said, making notes.
That's standard.
But what about you, Ethan? What are your concerns? Honestly, I just want to make sure everything's fair. If something happens, I don't want either of us to get screwed over.
Amanda nodded. Smart approach.
Here's what I'm thinking. We structure this so that premarital assets stay separate. That protects Emily's current wealth, but we also include provisions for your future business ventures, intellectual property, professional licenses, and we make sure there are clear guidelines for marital property and spousal support.
Spousal support? I hadn't thought about that.
Ethan, you're about to marry someone who makes significantly more than you. If this marriage ends, especially if you've made career sacrifices to support the relationship, you might be entitled to support. It goes both ways. If your accounting practice takes off and you become the higher earner, the same principles apply to Emily. This was getting more complicated than I'd expected, but Amanda walked me through everything. She explained how we could protect Emily's premarital assets while also making sure I wasn't signing away my rights to a fair settlement if things went sideways. One more thing, Amanda said as we wrapped up. Does Emily have her own representation? She mentioned getting a lawyer.
Yeah, good. Make sure she does.
A prenup that's only reviewed by one party's attorney can be challenged more easily. We want this thing bulletproof. I left Amanda's office feeling better about the whole situation. This wasn't just about protecting Emily. It was about making sure we both entered marriage with clear expectations and fair protections. When I told Emily about my meeting, she seemed pleased, but also a little surprised by how thorough Amanda had been. Spousal support provisions, Emily asked. Isn't that kind of overkill? Amanda said it's standard, just covering all the bases. Well, I suppose that makes sense. I'm meeting with my lawyer next week. Emily's lawyer was this expensive guy downtown, the kind who charges $500 an hour and wears suits that cost more than my rent. But he was supposedly the best at prenups for high-earning professionals. The back and forth between lawyers took about 6 weeks. There were multiple drafts, negotiations over specific language, discussions about what constituted marital property versus separate property. Amanda kept me informed every step of the way. Emily's attorney is pushing hard to make sure anything she earns stays separate, Amanda told me during one of our calls. But I'm holding firm on the marital property provisions and the spousal support guidelines. Is that going to be a problem?
Not if we stick to what's fair.
The prenup protects her current assets, but anything built during the marriage should be treated as joint unless explicitly kept separate. And Ethan, I want to make sure you understand something. This agreement has provisions that could benefit you significantly if your career takes off. When the final draft came back, Amanda scheduled a meeting to walk through every section. The document was thick, like novel thick, and covered every scenario either of us could imagine.
Let's go through the key points, Amanda said, spreading the pages across her conference table.
First, all premarital assets stay separate. Emily keeps her savings, investments, everything she's built so far. Same for you and your assets, which aren't much, I said with a laugh.
Don't sell yourself short.
You've got professional licenses, potential business interests, even your car and personal property. But here's where it gets interesting. Marital property. Amanda pointed to a section highlighted in yellow. Anything acquired during the marriage gets treated as joint property unless specifically kept separate through proper documentation. That means if your accounting practice takes off, or if you guys buy real estate together, or if either of you get significant bonuses or promotions, all of that gets split equitably if you divorce.
And the spousal support.
Here's where your lawyer earned her fee.
Amanda smiled.
If the marriage lasts more than 3 years and there's a significant income disparity, the lower earning spouse is entitled to support based on the standard of living established during the marriage. The amount and duration are based on length of marriage and income difference. I read through that section carefully. The language was complex, but the gist was clear. If Emily kept out earning me and we divorced, I could be entitled to ongoing support. If my business took off and I became the higher earner, the same would apply to her. This seems really fair. I said that's the goal. But Ethan, I need you to understand something. This prenup isn't just protecting Emily's current assets. It's creating a framework for how everything gets handled if this marriage ends. Make sure you're comfortable with all of it. I took the document home and read through it twice more. Then I called my dad, who'd been through a messy divorce when I was in high school. Son, I'm not a lawyer, Dad said after I explained everything. But it sounds like you've got someone looking out for your interests. The key thing is, do you trust Emily? Do you think she's being fair with you?
I think so.
She wants to protect what she's worked for. I get that. Just make sure you're protecting yourself, too. The signing happened on a Friday afternoon at Amanda's office. Emily and I sat across from each other at the conference table, our lawyers flanking us as we went through each page one more time. Emily seemed eager to get through it. She'd flipped to the signature pages, then back to random sections, not really paying attention to Amanda's explanations. Emily's lawyer, Mr. Expensive Suit, kept checking his phone and seemed like he wanted to be anywhere else. Any final questions?
Amanda asked before we signed. Just one, I said.
This protects both of us fairly, right? I'm not signing away rights I should keep. Ethan, this prenup protects Emily's premarital assets as requested, but it also ensures that marital property is treated equitably, and it includes spousal support provisions that could benefit either party depending on circumstances.
You're both protected. Emily's lawyer nodded.
It's comprehensive, covers all the standard scenarios.
We signed.
Then we went out for dinner to celebrate getting the legal stuff behind us. Emily seemed relieved and happy, talking about how grown up and responsible we were being.
See how easy that was? She said over dessert.
Now we can focus on the fun stuff. The wedding, the honeymoon, our future. The wedding was beautiful. Nothing too crazy. About 150 people at a nice venue, good food, dancing, the whole traditional thing. Emily looked stunning. I managed not to cry during my vows, and everyone had a great time. For the first couple years of marriage, everything was pretty much perfect. We bought a house together in a good neighborhood, split the down payment based on our incomes. Emily's career continued climbing. She got promoted to senior associate, then associate director. My accounting practice was growing slowly but steadily. The income gap between us actually widened during those early marriage years. Emily was pulling in nearly $180,000 by year 3, while I was still around $95,000 with my practice. But it didn't feel like a problem. We were building something together. Emily started talking about kids around our 3rd anniversary. She wanted to wait until she made partner at her firm, which would probably happen within the next 2 years. I was fine with that timeline. We were both still young, and it made sense to get our careers settled first. That's when things started getting weird. It began with little comments about my business. Emily would ask questions like, "Are you sure this accounting practice is going to work out? Or maybe you should consider going back to work for a firm with benefits." Nothing horrible, but it felt like she was losing confidence in my path. Then came the comments about our social life. Emily's work friends were all high-powered marketing types, lawyers, consultants, people who drove nice cars and took expensive vacations. When we'd go to work events, I'd notice Emily would introduce me as my husband Ethan.
He's an accountant.
Instead of my husband, Ethan, he runs his own practice. Why does it matter how you introduce me? I asked after one particularly awkward cocktail party. It doesn't matter. I just think people relate better when they understand what someone does for a living. But you make it sound like I work for H&R Block or something.
Emily laughed.
Don't be so sensitive. You know I'm proud of what you do. Except it didn't feel like that anymore. By year 4 of marriage, Emily had made partner and was earning close to $250,000 annually. My practice was doing well. I'd hit 6 figures and was building a solid client base, but the income gap had grown enormous. That's when Emily started spending more time at work. Late nights, weekend conferences, client dinners. She'd always been dedicated to her career, but this felt different, more secretive. How was the client dinner? I'd ask when she got home at 11 p.m. on a Thursday.
Fine, just boring work stuff. Who was there? Just the team. You don't know them.
These conversations started feeling like interrogations, and I hated that. I didn't want to be the suspicious husband, but Emily's behavior was changing in ways I couldn't ignore. The biggest change was how she talked about money. Despite earning more than ever, Emily became weird about expenses. She'd question purchases I made for my business, suggest I was being irresponsible with spending, even though my practice was profitable and growing. "Do you really need another laptop?" she asked when I bought a replacement for my ancient computer.
"Emily, it's a business expense.
The old one was literally dying."
I know.
"It's just maybe we should be more careful about unnecessary purchases." This from the woman who just bought a $3,000 handbag because she deserved something nice after making partner. The weirdest part was how Emily started talking about my money versus our money. She'd say things like, "I've been thinking about moving some of my bonus into a separate investment account." Or, "I want to make sure my retirement savings stay on track." "Don't you mean our retirement savings?" "Well, yes, but you know what I mean. My contributions, my employer match."
I didn't know what she meant, actually. We were married.
We'd been building a life together for years. When had everything become mine and yours instead of ours? The breaking point came during a conversation about renovating our kitchen. We'd been talking about updating it since we bought the house and finally had enough saved up to do it right. "I've been getting quotes," I told Emily over dinner. "It's going to run about $40,000, but it'll add at least that much to the house value." Emily set down her fork.
$40,000.
"That seems like a lot."
It's a full renovation.
New cabinets, appliances, countertops. We've been planning this for 2 years.
I know, but Emily hesitated.
"Maybe we should think about this differently. Since I'm paying for most of it, shouldn't I have more say in the decisions?"
I stared at her. Paying for most of it?
"We've been saving together for this. Ethan, let's be realistic. I put away twice as much as you do every month. My bonuses went into the renovation fund. I'm essentially covering this. That's not how marriage works, Emily.
We pull our resources.
We make decisions together, but it is my money funding this." That's when it hit me. Emily had stopped seeing us as a team. Somewhere along the way, she'd started keeping score in a way that made everything transactional. "If that's how you feel about our finances, maybe we need to have a bigger conversation," I said.
What do you mean?
"I mean, maybe we need to talk about whether you still want to be married to me." Emily's face went white. "That's not, I didn't mean it like that. I just think we should be practical about major expenses." But the damage was done. I could see how Emily really felt about our relationship and it wasn't good.
Quick pause, fellas.
YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. Thanks so much for your support. Alright, back to the drama. Over the next few months, Emily's behavior became even more distant. She was working later, traveling more for client meetings, spending weekends at the office. When I asked about her schedule, she'd get defensive. "I'm building my career." "I thought you understood that." "I do understand, but it feels like you're never here anymore."
That's not fair.
"I'm working hard for our future."
Our future?
"Because lately, it feels like you're working hard for your future." These conversations always ended the same way, with Emily accusing me of being unsupportive and me feeling like I was losing my wife to her job. The discovery happened on a Tuesday morning in October. Emily had left early for what she called a breakfast meeting with a potential client. Her laptop was still on the kitchen counter, and when I moved it to plug in my phone charger, the screen lit up. She hadn't logged out of her email. I wasn't trying to snoop.
I really wasn't.
But the preview of her latest message was right there on the screen, and the sender's name made my stomach drop. "Can't wait for this weekend in Chicago. Being away from Ethan will be such a relief." The sender was Jason Chun, the creative director at Emily's firm.
I knew Jason.
We'd met at several work events. He was married with 2 kids. Seemed like a nice enough guy. Emily had mentioned working closely with him on some big accounts. I stood there staring at that message preview, trying to make sense of it.
Maybe it was innocent.
Maybe Emily just needed space from me because we'd been arguing more. Maybe Chicago was a legitimate work trip. But my gut was screaming that something was wrong.
I looked at the clock.
Emily wouldn't be back for hours. I should close the laptop and pretend I never saw anything. That would be the mature, trusting husband thing to do. Instead, I clicked on the email. The message thread was long. Dozens of emails between Emily and Jason going back months. And they weren't about work. "I can't stop thinking about last night." Jason had written in August. "Being with you feels like coming alive."
Emily's response. I know.
"Being married to Ethan feels like being buried alive." You remind me what passion feels like. I scrolled further back, finding the beginning of their correspondence. It started professional enough. Project discussions, meeting notes, but by June, the tone had shifted. Dinner tomorrow, Jason had written, just the two of us. I want to talk about more than work.
I'd love that.
Ethan's working late anyway. He always is these days. From there, it escalated fast. By July, they were meeting for drinks after work. By August, they'd slept together for the first time. The Chicago trip wasn't about clients. It was a romantic getaway they'd been planning for weeks. The worst part wasn't just the affair. It was how Emily talked about me in these emails. She called me boring, unambitious, dead weight. She complained about having to carry our marriage financially. She even joked about how easy it would be to leave me since I brought nothing to the table. The prenup will make everything clean, she'd written in one message. I protected my assets before we got married. Ethan won't get much in a divorce. I sat there in our kitchen reading email after email about my wife's affair and her plans to leave me and felt something break inside me. Then I remembered something Amanda had told me during our prenup negotiations. Make sure you understand every provision in this agreement. I went upstairs to our home office and pulled out the prenup from our filing cabinet. I hadn't looked at it in years, but as I read through the pages, Amanda's words came back to me. Emily thought the prenup protected only her assets.
But she was wrong.
Those spousal support provisions Amanda had insisted on the marital property clauses, the income disparity protections. If Emily filed for divorce, she wasn't just losing me. She was potentially losing a lot of money. I looked at our financial records. Emily's income had more than doubled since we got married. We'd bought a house together, accumulated joint savings, built equity. Under the prenup terms, if our marriage ended, Emily would owe me support based on our income difference and the lifestyle she'd established. The irony was perfect. Emily's success, the very thing that had made her feel superior to me, was going to cost her big time if she wanted out. I spent the rest of the morning taking screenshots of Emily's emails, printing financial records, and calling Amanda. Ethan, it's been years. How are you and Emily doing? Not great, actually. I think I need your help with something. I explained what I'd found, and Amanda listened without interrupting. I'm sorry you're going through this, she said when I finished. But you called the right person. Do you remember what we built into that prenup? Some of it, the spousal support stuff. Ethan, if Emily files for divorce, she's going to be in for a surprise. Based on what you're telling me about your respective incomes and the length of your marriage, she could be looking at substantial ongoing support obligations.
How substantial?
Potentially 30 to 40% of the income difference for a duration based on length of marriage. We're talking about possibly a decade of payments. Ethan, I felt a strange mix of vindication and sadness. I'd never wanted to hurt Emily, but she'd been planning to leave me with nothing while she ran off with Jason. What do I need to do first? Document everything. The affair, your financial records, her communications.
Then we wait.
Let her make the first move if she's going to. The prenup is ironclad.
She signed it.
Her lawyer reviewed it. She can't claim she didn't understand the terms. I spent the next few weeks in a weird kind of limbo. Emily continued her affair, thinking I was clueless. She kept working late, taking mysterious trips for client meetings, having whispered phone calls. I acted normal, but inside I was just waiting for the other shoe to drop. It happened on a Friday evening in November. Emily came home from work looking nervous and determined.
Ethan, we need to talk.
I looked up from my laptop.
Sure, what's up?
I think we should get divorced. I felt that same broken feeling I'd had when reading her emails, but I kept my voice steady.
Why?
We've been growing apart.
You know that.
I don't think we want the same things anymore.
What do you want, Emily?
I want to be with someone who matches my ambition. Someone who challenges me. Someone like Jason. Emily's face went pale.
What do you mean?
I know about the affair, Emily.
I've known for weeks. She started crying.
Not sad tears, but angry, frustrated tears. You were spying on me. You left your email open. I saw the messages. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Emily snapped, wiping her eyes. You don't trust me. You snooped through my things. I can't live like this. The gaslighting was incredible. She was cheating on me, but somehow I was the problem for finding out.
Fine, I said.
If you want a divorce, let's do it. Emily seemed surprised I wasn't fighting her.
Really? Really? But we do it right.
We both get lawyers, follow the prenup, divide things fairly. Of course, The prenup will make everything simple.
I almost laughed.
Emily had no idea what was coming. The next Monday, Emily moved out. She found a fancy apartment downtown closer to work and to Jason. She seemed excited about her new life, talking about how liberated she felt. I should have done this years ago, she told me while packing her things. I feel like myself again.
I'm glad you're happy, Ethan.
I hope you know this isn't personal. We just weren't right for each other.
I understand.
Emily filed for divorce the following week. Her petition was pretty straightforward. Irreconcilable differences. Request for division of marital assets according to the prenup. No spousal support requested. That last part made me smile. Emily was so confident in her position that she didn't even ask for support. She just wanted out as quickly and cleanly as possible. Amanda filed my response 2 weeks later. That's when Emily's phone started ringing.
Ethan, what the hell?
Emily called me at work, practically screaming. You're asking for spousal support?
Are you insane?
I'm asking for what I'm entitled to under our prenup. That prenup was to protect my assets. Did you read it before you signed it?
There was a long pause. Of course I read it.
Then you know about the spousal support provisions. You agreed to them. I didn't think that was just in case you became successful. Emily, I am successful. My practice is doing well, but you make almost 3 times what I do.
Under the prenup terms, if we divorce, you owe me support.
I could hear Emily talking to someone in the background, probably her expensive lawyer. This is ridiculous, she said, coming back to the phone. You're trying to punish me for being successful. I'm following the agreement you insisted we sign.
Emily hung up.
The next few months were a battle. Emily's lawyer tried every angle to get around the prenup, claiming I'd coerced her, that she hadn't understood the terms, that circumstances had changed. But Amanda had been thorough. Every challenge failed. The spousal support provisions are clear, the judge said during one hearing. Both parties had independent counsel. Mrs. Torres requested this prenup specifically to protect assets. The agreement is valid and enforceable. Emily was furious. What she thought would be a quick, clean divorce was turning into an expensive nightmare. Her affair with Jason became public during discovery, which made her look bad. Her own behavior, the emails calling me dead weight, the plans to leave me with nothing, worked against her. She wanted to eat her cake and have it too, Amanda told me after one particularly brutal hearing. She wanted the security of marriage when it benefited her, but planned to discard you the moment you became inconvenient. Now she gets to live with the consequences of the deal she made. The final settlement was everything Amanda had predicted. Emily kept her premarital assets as the prenup specified, but the house we'd bought together, the savings we'd accumulated, the retirement funds we'd built, all of that got divided according to the marital property provisions. More importantly, based on our income difference and the 5 years we'd been married, Emily owed me spousal support of $4,200 per month for 8 years, nearly $400,000 total. This will destroy me financially, Emily said at the final settlement meeting. She looked like she'd aged a decade in 6 months.
You signed the prenup, I reminded her.
You got what you asked for, protection of your premarital assets. Everything else follows the agreement you demanded. Emily's relationship with Jason didn't survive the divorce proceedings. Turns out he wasn't as interested in being with her when it came with public scandal and financial hardship. He went back to his wife and kids. Emily was left alone in her expensive apartment, trying to figure out how to pay me $4,200 a month on top of her other expenses. Meanwhile, I was doing better than ever. My accounting practice had grown significantly during the divorce, partly because word got out about how I'd handled my own legal situation, and people wanted someone that thorough managing their finances. The spousal support meant I could invest more in the business, hire additional staff, even buy out a competitor who was retiring. Within a year of the divorce being final, my income had nearly doubled. I ran into Emily about 18 months later at a coffee shop downtown. She looked tired, stressed. We made awkward small talk for a few minutes before she got to what she really wanted to say.
Ethan, about the support payments.
I'm struggling to keep up with everything. Do you think we could modify the agreement? I stirred my coffee, thinking about all those emails where she'd called me dead weight about how she'd planned to leave me with nothing while she ran off with Jason. The prenup doesn't have provisions for modification. I said, you made sure of that when your lawyer drafted those terms, but circumstances have changed. I'm not making as much as I was.
The market is tough.
I'm sorry to hear that, but the agreement is what it is. Emily's eyes filled with tears. I know I hurt you. I know I was wrong, but this is ruining my life. Emily, You wrote in an email that the prenup would make everything clean when you left me.
You were right. It is clean.
You get to keep everything you brought to the marriage, and you pay support based on the income difference we agreed to protect. That's exactly what you wanted. I didn't understand what it meant. You had a $500 an hour lawyer explain it to you. You signed it. You lived with the benefits of it for 5 years. You don't get to change the terms just because they stopped working in your favor. I finished my coffee and stood up. Take care of yourself, Emily. The support payments will end eventually. As I walked away, I felt something I hadn't experienced in a long time. Complete peace with my decisions. Emily had taught me a valuable lesson about protecting myself and understanding exactly what agreements I was signing. The prenup she demanded to protect her assets ended up protecting mine instead. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting people live with the consequences of their own choices. 6 months later, I started dating Amanda's paralegal, Sophia. She'd helped with my divorce case, and we'd gotten to know each other during the proceedings. Sophia was smart, funny, and had her own successful career. But more than that, she understood the value of partnership. I can't believe Emily threw away what you guys had, Sophia said during one of our early dates. I don't think she ever really valued it to begin with. She wanted the security of marriage, but not the commitment that comes with it. Her loss is my gain.
Sophia smiled.
We took things slow, but everything felt right with Sophia in a way it never had with Emily, even in our best times. When Sophia got promoted to office manager at the law firm, I threw her a celebration party. When I landed a huge corporate client, she helped me plan how to expand my practice to handle the additional work. It was the kind of partnership I thought I'd had with Emily, but never actually did. 2 years after the divorce, I proposed to Sophia. This time, there was no talk of prenups or protecting individual assets. We were building something together from day one.
Aren't you worried?
My dad asked when I told him about the engagement after what happened with Emily. Dad, Emily taught me to read contracts carefully and never sign anything I don't understand completely, but she also taught me the difference between a partner and a parasite. Sophia and I got married last spring. It was a small ceremony, just family and close friends.
Amanda was there. She'd become a good friend over the years.
Even Jason showed up looking happy and relaxed in a way I'd never seen during his marriage. During my toast at the reception, I thanked everyone for their support during the challenging times of my first marriage. I didn't go into details, but I did say this. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing. If Emily hadn't demanded that prenup, I never would have learned to protect myself properly. If she hadn't left me, I never would have found Sophia. And if she hadn't taught me what a bad marriage looks like, I wouldn't appreciate what a good one feels like. Sophia squeezed my hand and smiled. Here's to learning from our mistakes, she said. As for Emily, last I heard she was still working at the marketing firm, still making her monthly support payments, still single. The payments have 3 more years to run. Sometimes I wonder if she ever thinks about the prenup she insisted on, or if she understands the irony of how it all worked out. But mostly I don't think about her at all. I'm too busy building something real with someone who actually wants to be my partner. The funny thing about prenups, they're like insurance policies. You hope you never need them, but if you do, you better make sure they actually protect you. Emily learned that lesson the hard way. I just learned it the smart way.